Hello, and welcome to my sort of experiment that I didn't actually plan, but ended up working out really well anyway. I've been getting more into drawing over the past few days, and it's felt so nice. Drawing has just been one of my back burner hobbies lately, and I've really enjoyed bringing it up to one of my, frontal burners the past couple days. And lately, I really haven't had a ton of time to spend on drawing. I've been doing a lot of other things. And last week, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do some drawing. I turned on some music and I set up my camera and whatnot. And for some reason, I recorded this first page. I wasn't entirely sure what sort of video I wanted to do, but I thought I might as well film since I'm here at my desk. Also, I think that was my phone that just went off in the background. I should probably silence that. I don't know if you can hear that, but we'll find out. For this page, as you can probably see, I did not use any sort of reference for what I was drawing. I was simply just filling the page with whatever came to mind. And now that I've done both parts of this sort of experiment, I can definitely tell that I was out of practice. For one, this was the first time I'd drawn outside of my doodles during church in a couple weeks. The poses are stiff, and I could tell that I needed to sit myself down and practice some anatomy. I really was just making things up without even thinking about it or really taking the time to figure out what I wanted the end product to look like. The next thing I noticed is just how much time I spent on each of the drawings. The first page took me maybe half an hour or so, and I was spending, like 5 minutes on each drawing. And this next page took me more than double that amount, and I think it's because I could see the finished piece, or rather what my finished piece should look like right in front of me. And I could look at my drawing and then look at the reference and see what needed to be worked on and what needed fixing. I definitely noticed how much closer to realism my drawings were, and how much more natural and less stiff they ended up if I was looking at the reference. All this to say, this was a very fascinating experiment, and I definitely suggest you try it. Because there is something about being creative and coming up with all these new ideas and things, but it's a lot harder when you can't remember how big human head is compared to the shoulders. Another thing I noticed was how much more stylized and cartoony my drawings were. And one thing that I learned from watching this video here by Chromang, is that how you pronounce that? I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, the thing I learned in what he was talking about in his video is why we find the human face so hard to draw and so hard to get correct. And it's because we see them every day. And unless you're some hermit living by yourself in the middle of nowhere with no mirror in your house, faces are all around us all the time. And that's why they're so much harder to draw without reference. It's because we're so used to seeing faces so often, it's so very easy to tell when something is off, even if it is just slightly. Now, I don't mean this to say that you should always use a reference or always be looking at something to draw and to copy, because you just need to get those references in your head and know how to draw and blah, 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 blah. But I'm just saying that it's really actually very helpful to have references, because it's kind of like a roadmap of drawing, and it's so much easier to see what needs fixing and what needs tweaking when you do have that reference in front of you. Now, all that to say, it is kind of fun sometimes to go off on your own and just use your imagination. Especially I enjoy doing that while I'm listening to things, is just kind of to let my brain spew on the page while I'm doing something else or listening to something else. And I have drawn some pretty darn good crap. But it's just, when you haven't drawn in a while, I think it's definitely, at least from my experience, better to start off with references than go off on your own without, than the other way around like I did for this video. And along with that, I found that dragons and other creatures of the like are much easier to draw from imagination than humans are. And I think it's because of that same principle. You see faces in everyday life. Well, dragons, I would say, are a little bit harder to find, unfortunately. I'd also be curious to do a similar experiment, but with reference drawing first, then a few days later to try to come up with something from my own head. I've noticed that when I spent time drawing with reference later on when I don't have a reference pulled up, I can actually sometimes draw better. And what I mean is that somehow just the act of my brain and my hand coming together to recreate something from an image helps me to remember. It's kind of that muscle memory sort of thing, and I feel like you start building up an arsenal of things you learned how to draw from references, and they're kind of stored away in your brain, at least for me, without even me realizing it. So if I go to, let's say I was looking at a reference and this person had a specific nose shape, and I learned how to draw that nose, and I learned how to do it well because I was intensely studying this reference. Then a few days later, if I'm drawing on my own, I think, oh, I know how to draw this type of nose, or this eyes, or this hairstyle, or whatever. And it's a lot easier when you have that kind of arsenal of images stored up in your brain. Anyway, if you found this interesting or helpful in any sort of way, please click the like button as a way to help more people see this video. And also, if you try this experiment, let me know in the I can't speak. Let me know in the comments. I think it's always interesting to hear other people's thoughts. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!